The #1 business that makes me over $400,000 a month.
Best online business to start.
Online business is the best business to start.
What is the best online business to start? Wrong question. What is the best online business that I should start? Right question. There are loads of videos out there like this one, and what I've noticed is that people tend to favor one type of business because that's probably the only business that they've done, and they have a course to sell you at the very end. I, my good friend, am not going to do that to you. I'm going to sell you the course at the start. If you don't know what the f you're doing with life, boy do I have the course for you. For only $500 per month, I have no motivation here other than to build a community of entrepreneurial savages, so I'm going to make this as unbiased as possible. Personally, I've started a fair few businesses online. I've also sold a couple of businesses, one of which was a guidance software that helped second level students figure out what they wanted to do in third level. So, you know, this kind of thing is my bread and butter. There are 6 types of umbrella businesses that we are going to focus on in this video. Bam! First thing that we are going to do is identify one of these umbrellas. And then we're going to pick a business within one of those umbrellas. And we're going to do that using 6 foundational elements that will underpin our decision when determining what business we decide to start. At some stage or another, I have started a business in every single one of those umbrellas. So hopefully I'm going to be able to give you some first-hand insights and recommendations on each and how much money I've made in each of them. First, let's talk through the 6 umbrellas. Services. Services. Now, I define services by trading a skill or time for money. Basically some sort of freelancing. So you might be on Fiverr or Upwork, or you might be doing consultancy work for clients in design. There are an indefinite amount of services, but the main thing about services is that you're trading your time for money. A good example of a YouTube channel is Rachel Howe. Next up, we have hustles. Now, why did I call it hustles? I just couldn't come up with another name for it. Basically, with hustles like these, you're using like a third-party software to sell as a service online. So things like affiliate marketing, arbitrage opportunities, selling online courses. So you're not developing this software yourself from scratch, but you might be tweaking it a little bit and selling it yourself. Liam McCaw is a good example. Next up, we have product. Now, this is the easiest one to define. You're selling a physical good. E-commerce, drop shipping, print on demand. My man Bia Hizzy is the reference point here. Next up, we have content. Basically what you're watching now. Could be video, audio, podcasting, and there are loads of other ways you can do it. Ali Abdal is probably the man here. Next up, we have CFBiz, which is just shortened to fit in that little box I have on the table. It means a cash flow business. Now, we'll go through the properties as to what makes this different from the rest, but basically what you're doing here is you're selling a specialized online service at scale. Social media marketing agency, lead generation agency, there's loads of others. Iman Ghazi is your man to learn about how it works. Everything else, like... Last up, we have SWBiz. Basically, this means a software business. So you develop a software as a service product yourself that you either sell for a one-time fee or a recurring fee. You know, this is the realm of some very, very small companies like Shopify, Spotify. And I have no examples of YouTubers here because these are real entrepreneurs that are too busy to make content online. The nominees for the 6 foundational elements that underpin your decision are upfront capital. So how much money it costs to set up the business. Number 2, max earnings per year. In general, what's the ceiling for the amount of money that you can realistically make doing this? Number 3, risk. What is your exposure here? Is it going to be time? Is it going to be money? Or is it going to be a combination of both? I'm going to show you a trick later on how you can eliminate risk completely. Number 4, feedback loop. Okay, this one will probably take some explaining. Your feedback loop is the time it takes to develop a product, fulfill the service, and thereafter get paid. The shorter this feedback loop, the faster you start seeing money. The longer the payback loop, the longer it will take for you to start generating revenue to put back into the business. In general, the shorter the feedback loop, the less money you charge. And the longer the feedback loop, the more money you charge. We'll get back to that in a minute. Number 5, cost of replication. How the f are you going to scale this business is basically what that means. And finally, number 6, acquisition probability. Or in other words, how likely is it that somebody is going to buy your business?
Let's hope that this works. 1, 2, 3.
First off, we're going to talk about services, i.e. selling your time for money. Now, the good thing about services is that there's generally no upfront capital cost because all you're doing is you're selling your time for money. The downside of this is that you do have a pretty low earnings ceiling. Now, again, this is general. Some people will earn more than 120k, but I'm talking about the general population here. You're kind of only risking your time, and the revenue loop is very short. You fulfill your service, you get paid, and you repeat. If you want to scale this, all you need to do is bring in more people, because the only way to get more time is to recruit people who have that time, and the acquisition likelihood here is very low. The reason being, it's very hard to buy a company where the company is a person selling their time, because you'd effectively be selling yourself. And we just don't want that. Which is why I like the... Which is why I'm a big fan of the Hustles umbrella. Now, the Hustles umbrella does not require that much startup costs, and its earnings ceiling is generally a lot higher than if you were selling your time. Because in this case, you're not selling your time, you're selling a product that was built by someone else that you're kind of tweaking. With this, you're risking time and or money, depending on what type of service it is. The revenue loop, again, is very short because you're fulfilling that service and it's coming back, and you scale it through money. So once you start getting that money coming in, you can pump it back into the business to grow it even more. And the probability of getting acquired is very high, because you're either developing a brand or you're developing a product that someone else can run and take over very easily. The reason I know this is because I sold a business under this umbrella. Now, the product umbrella does require a little bit more capital to start up, but not without a reward, because the ceiling for the product category is much higher than the previous two categories. The product category is an incredibly difficult one to get started with. I know I work in e-commerce currently, and you see lots of people starting it up and failing, but those that do succeed and that do persist do end up reaping the rewards, provided they get their margins right. Generally here, the biggest risk is money, because you need to upfront a load of costs to buy a load of stock to then sell, which then feeds back to the revenue loop, which isn't as short as the others, because you need to buy a product, you need to fulfill it, you need to ship it, you need to service it. There are lots of elements to it before you get paid. Scaling it in general just requires money, and the probability of getting acquired is very high, because again, you're developing a product that can be bought by somebody else and replicated over and over again. Now, content is a personal favorite of mine, because I love developing content in the first place. That being said, it's not for everyone. Startup costs are quite low, unless you're an idiot like me and you buy a very expensive camera and a shitty little green screen to keep yourself going. However, the earning potential is quite high. Now, obviously, I'm excluding the likes of Mr. Beast here, because, you know, he's... Most of the time, you are risking time. Sorry. Which is good, because people can get started without a lot of money. But one thing you have to be aware of with regard to this umbrella is that the revenue loop is extremely long, because to get to a stage where you're earning money, you need an audience, and to earn an audience, you need to build trust, and to build trust takes an awful long time.
Have I built your trust yet?
Scaling it up generally requires just a little bit more people on your team, and the probability of getting acquired, I'm going to say, is high, unless you have a personal channel. Because if you have a faceless channel that builds content around a specific industry or niche, it's very likely that a company within that niche will want to buy your audience. Personal brand? Personal brands, not so much. Next up, the CF businesses are pound for pound probably the best business model. At the start, it's very like a service business where you're selling your time for money, so the startup costs are zero. However, you can scale this company up with people and with money to start generating more than just the time you're selling. And because it's a specialized service, that ceiling for earnings is very high. Realistically, if you want to build this business, you're risking time and money, and the revenue loop is a medium, because you need to get clients before you get money, which takes a little bit of time. But once you get those clients, you should be able to get recurring revenue from them for fulfilling a service every month. And the probability of selling a business in this space is very high, because you're developing a service for companies within a space that other companies would want power over. And finally, not for the faint-hearted, we have the software businesses. Now, software businesses generally take a lot of startup capital to get up and going. The reason being, you need to develop software, which means you're going to need an engineer. If you're already an engineer, great. You'll probably have to hire more engineers once you get to a certain point. And this requires lots of money. And if you don't have 3 million lying around, you'll probably have to raise some startup capital, which is fine, because the upside of this business is infinite. It's a pretty high risk, because you're going to be spending all of your time doing it, and realistically all of your money. And the revenue loop is extremely long, because you need to develop a product, you need to get people to use it probably for free at the start before you get any paying customers, and the competition is absolutely fierce. So other than the infinite amount of money that you can make from this, why else would you do this? Well, the cost of replication in this case is just code. And code, once you have it built, can run over and over again. Never gets tired, it doesn't need to be paid, and you'll never get HR complaining about something code did. So it is extremely easy to scale, and businesses that are very easy to scale have a very high likelihood of being acquired. That, my friend, is the matrix. You won't want to miss the next part because I'm going to be giving some of you some money. I don't know why I'm kneeling. Sometimes you just gotta bend the knee. Okay, so the trick of completely removing the risk in the first place is that once you've identified the venture you're starting is going to be a risk of time or a risk of money, you need to then ask yourself, would I be happy if I lost all of it? If the answer is yes, then you need to ask yourself one question. How can I make this a win? Even if I lose. So if you're starting a content business, even if it doesn't work, at least I'm gonna learn how to tell stories. Or if I'm starting a freelance design business, how do I say, okay, if I don't make 100K a year, at least I get really good at design for my next business. I've also lied to you. There is a 7th foundational element or column that I have not told you about.
Why did you do this to me? Fuck you, Darren. You lied. I hate you, Darren. You smell fantastic. Subliminal subscribe.
So the 7th element scares the absolute out of me, but it's something that I am going to consider now when I'm starting any business. And it's can and will AI soon be doing this better than me? Seriously, if there's one thing that ChatGPT, they really need to rename that AI bot. If there's anything that bot has shown me, it's that very, very soon AI is going to be doing things a lot better than us in a lot of forms of businesses. Look, this is a long-term thing to think about, but get into the habit of thinking long-term. So what is the best online business that you can start? The real answer is I don't know. If you, good sir, are asking me that question, that is probably a sign that you should go out and try some of these online businesses yourself to get a feel for what you're good at and what you like. So hopefully you can find a strong intersection between the two. Go through the matrix and tick what boxes best meet what you want and what you can do. And whatever one you pick, stick to it for a prolonged period of time. Don't expect any real results for at least 6 months. Think of it like going to the gym. It's only those that persist, eat well, and work hard that will end up getting the results. Suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret. And finally, do one at a time. Otherwise, you'll end up spreading yourself a mile long and an inch thick. And instead, we all want to be 8 inches long and 2 inches thick. So